Hello Rebels and welcome back to my life. So yesterday was another glorious book release day. The Alchemist's Touch is now published on Amazon.com and ready for your viewing holes. You can find a link to pick it up down in the description. Now, if you've been reading my Nightblade series, I want to be very clear about one thing. This is not part of the Nightblade books. However, it is set in the world of Underrealm, and if you've read the Nightblade books all the way to the fourth one, Shadeborn, then the events in this book will be very familiar to you, although you will be seeing them from a different perspective. Also, if I haven't mentioned it already, there's a link to pick it up down in the description. This is the first of 3 new series I'm launching this year that are all set in the world of Underrealm, and they all relate to the Nightblade books in some way. In fact, I can confirm that the main characters of all 3 new series will meet or have already met Lauren at some point in the books. So why 4 different series in the same world rather than just writing more Nightblade books, other than the fact that I kind of like writing books and the fact that I seem to have some sort of obsessive compulsion to keep doing it? Well, there's more to it than just those reasons. Here's the thing. The Nightblade epic is about Lauren. The story belongs to Lauren. We never really leave her or see any other perspectives in the books. Well, except in the epilogue of Shadeborn, but that's a rare exception. And also an Easter egg that a surprising number of people still have not found in that book. So with our viewpoint restricted to Lauren, right, we can really only tell one story, her story, day by day and month by month as she goes through all of the things that she goes through. But the thing is, I want to tell more than one type of story, right? Like, Lauren's perspective really only allows for a couple of themes. The main one being the moment where we break out of our home and go out into the wide world and have to figure out what we want to do with ourselves now that we're ostensibly adults. Now, I could theoretically try to work a bunch of other themes into Lauren's story, but because of who she is and where she comes from and what her background is, there's only so much space, right? Like, she's only one person, so there's a limited number of stories I can tell. And because of her upbringing and where she comes from and what she's trying to do, there's a limit to the different types of stories that I can tell. And that's where the other series, and more importantly, the other main characters come into play. Like, by exploring people with different backgrounds and socio-economic origins, I can explore different types of themes. Like, Lauren is a poor peasant girl from the forest, right? So it doesn't really make sense to use her story to talk about the onus of legacy and family obligation and how that can be a problem even for people who are born into extreme wealth and privilege. Which, coincidentally, is the main theme of The Alchemist's Touch, and did I mention that there's a link in the description where you can go and pick that up? The main character, Eben, is a boy from an absurdly wealthy family that has a very, very dark reputation, and Eben's not really sure why, mainly because he has specifically avoided any knowledge of why for, basically his entire life. Much like children born into wealth and privilege today don't really often take the time to sit and examine that privilege, because it's a lot easier to just, enjoy it rather than wonder if you actually deserve it. 16-year-old Garrett knew nothing about that situation, by the way. Eben also happens to be an alchemist, a wizard who can transform matter external to themselves, as opposed to were-mages who can transform their own bodies. But he never learned to command his magic because his father never let him study how to cast spells, because his father is a bit of a dick nugget. However, very close to his 17th birthday, events conspire to finally allow Eben to attend the Academy for Wizards on the High King's Seat, the island capital of the 9 Kingdoms. And while he thinks everything's gonna be all hunky-dory from then on, it wouldn't be a very good book if that was all there was to it. So he begins to encounter a few problems. I mean, for one thing, he's beginning his studies like 6 years later than he was supposed to, so he immediately becomes the subject of ridicule among kids his own age. And because he comes from the family Drayden, his instructors are either totally terrified of him or try to suck up to him, thinking that his family name gives him a lot more political influence than it actually does. And meanwhile, something weird is happening on the High King's Seat, something that Eben doesn't completely understand, but which he finds himself being drawn further and further into as he tries and mostly fails to learn how to use his magic. Like I said, if you have read Shadeborn, you will love The Alchemist's Touch, and if I've done my job well, there will be at least one point in the book where you sit there and go, oh wait, that's what's happening? Oh dear. Also, like I said before, there's a link where you can pick it up in the description. Rebels, I'm so totally excited to share this book with you, and I hope that you enjoy reading it as much as I enjoyed writing it. If you're reading it now, or you've already read it, please let me know in the comments. I can't wait to hear about it. I live for your love. As always, thank you for watching, and an extra special shout out to my supporters on Patreon who make my YouTube channel possible. If you want to be one of those people, or if you want to pick up signed copies of my books, there are links to do both of those things in the description. Speaking of which, now is a really good time to do that, because I just got a fresh shipment of books, so I can ship them to you in less than 24 hours. As always, I appreciate your support, and I will see you tomorrow. Maybe. Bye!